Hello, my dear students. I welcome you all to the online teaching learning platform. Students, today we will discuss regarding the chapter number 8, and in this particular chapter we will cover all these important subtopics listed over here. That is the difference between the rest and motion. Then we will discuss regarding the types of motion. After this, we will discuss regarding the numerical problems based on the concept of distance and displacement. Then after this, we will understand the concept of average speed, and then we will see the rate of change of velocity, that is acceleration. We will learn what is the definition of acceleration. We will solve some numerical problem based on the concept of acceleration. Then we will understand how to draw the graphs of the distance and time. Last but not the least, we will also understand how to derive the equation of motion by the graphical method. After watching the video, students, these are the learning outcomes that you all will be able to achieve. This particular section that we are covering in this particular video, you can read it from your NCERT book for better understanding from page number 98 to page number 113. So let's start our class. Students, the very important first key term that we have to discuss here, it is actually the difference between the rest and motion. Students, actually rest and motion, both terms are relative to one another. Means we cannot define or we cannot understand one term without the help of another. So that's why these rest and motion are actually related to one another there. So let us understand with the help of these examples given over here that actually what is the meaning of rest and motion. So let us start with the rest. Students, as you can see here, this book is lying on the table, and likewise another example we will take. Then if this particular bench is lying in the park and it is fixed in a particular place, and these are objects, and these objects are actually not changing their position. They are not changing their position with respect to the time and with respect to its surroundings. So that's why we can say simply that these objects are said to be at rest. Means whenever the object is not changing its position, means position is not getting changed with the passage of time or with the reference of the surroundings, then in that case we can define simply that object is said to be at rest. I hope you are able to understand the concept of rest. Then let us come to the section where we will discuss regarding the term motion. Students, opposite to that of rest, if a particular body, likewise in the case of the movement of a bird, in the case of when the boy is playing a football, then in such case, if the body is changing its position continuously with respect to the time and with respect to the surrounding, then that body or such body is said to be in motion. So this is the difference between the rest and motion. Students, as we have covered or as we have understood the meaning of the motion, motion is simply in the position of a body with respect to the time, and this particular term motion can be described in terms of the distance moved or the displacement. Then let us understand what is the meaning of distance and displacement. Students, what is the meaning of distance? Distance is actually the actual length of the path traveled by a body, whereas in case of displacement it is simply the length of the shortest path traveled by the body from its initial position to the final position. So let us understand the difference between the distance and the displacement with the help of example given over here. Students, in this particular case, what is happening? Suppose a body is kept at the point O, let us say origin. Then this particular body starts moving in a straight line from O to C, then it reaches the point B, then after a certain interval of time it reaches a point A. Then this particular body returns from the point A to the point C via B. Means this is the final position of this particular object now. Clear? This is the total path or total length covered by this object. Clear? And then in this particular case or in this particular question, let us understand what will be the value of distance and displacement. So students, as we have learnt here that what is distance? Distance is actually the total length or actual length of the path traveled by the body. So in case of the calculation of distance, we have to consider this whole distance, means the distance or the actual length from the point O to A, that is actually 60 kilometer here, and then this particular body returns from point A to point C, and then let us calculate this. This is how much? This is actually here 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So this is 35 kilometers. So then total length of the path traveled by this object is actually a 60 kilometer plus 35 kilometers, that is equal to 95 kilometer. But in the calculation of the displacement, what we have to consider simply the shortest path between the initial position and the final position. So according to the question, according to the statement given over here, this was the initial position, this origin, and this C position is the final position of the object there. So the total distance between the O and C here, this O and C is actually here how much? It is actually 25 kilometer. So this is the main difference between the distance and displacement. I hope you all will be able to understand this, that distance is actually the total length or actual path covered by the object, whereas displacement is simply the shortest path between the initial position and the final position. So let's move ahead and let's understand the difference between the distance and displacement. Students, this type of question can also be the part of your assessment or exam, that write the difference between distance and displacement. Clear? So this type of the question can also come in your exam for 3 marks. So you can prepare this particular question for 3 marks also. Let us understand what is the difference between, what are the major differences between the distance and displacement. This difference we have learned in the previous section, that distance is actually the total path or the actual path traveled by an object, whereas in the case of displacement, it is simply the shortest length between the initial point and the far point of a object. And as we know very well that displacement is a vector quantity, whereas distance is a scalar quantity. What are scalar quantities and vector quantities? Scalar quantities, students, are that quantities which is having only magnitude, whereas in case of the vector quantity, such physical quantities which is having the magnitude as well as the direction, that quantities are actually known as vector quantity. For example, suppose a car is moving with a speed of 50 meter per second, then this is having the magnitude only. But in the second, let me give you another example. Like, if a body is traveling with a speed of 50 meter per second in northeast direction, clear, then this particular statement is having the magnitude, that is the speed is 50 and the direction is northeast. So such physical quantities where direction along with the magnitude is there, that quantities are actually called as vector quantities. And such quantities, such physical quantities where only the magnitude is there, that quantities are actually called as scalar quantity. So distance is actually a scalar quantity and displacement is a vector quantity. Then let us come to the next point, that distance remains always positive. Distance is always positive. It can't be zero and it cannot be negative. It can't be zero and it can't be negative. Whereas in case of the displacement, it can be positive, it can be negative, and it can be zero depending upon the condition. Clear? That we have discussed earlier also, and we will see these things in the upcoming numericals also. Then distance can be equal to displacement. This is very important question, and 1 mark question can also come from here, that when the distance is equal to displacement, then if a body is traveling in a straight path or in the linear path, then in such case distance is equal to displacement. Clear? Whereas this displacement can be equal to distance or it can be lesser than the distance, but displacement can never be greater than that of the distance. So these are the differences, these are the some important differences between the distance and the displacement. So let's move ahead and let us practice some numerical problems based on the concept of distance and displacement. Students, according to the statement of this particular question given over here, a body is traveling in a semicircular path. As you can see here in the picture also, this particular body, let us say it start from this particular point A. This particular body start moving from the point A in a semicircular path, and the radius of this particular semicircular path given in the question is 10 meter. As you can see here, we have represented the radius of this particular semicircular path with the help of this arc, that is AO, with the help of this particular line, that is AO, and the radius of this particular semicircular path is 10 meter. Then this particular body start moving from the point A and it reaches the point B according to the question. This statement given over here, after certain interval of time the body reaches the point B, and in this particular situation what we have to do, we have to calculate the distance and the displacement. So let us solve the numerical. So what actually is the meaning of distance? Let us first of all calculate the distance. What actually is the meaning of distance? Distance is actually the total path or the total length covered by the object, and the total path or the length covered by this object, this particular object is actually moving in this semicircular path. If you are able to see, this particular object is moving in this particular path, is zigzag line I am representing here, that this body is traveling in this particular zigzag path or the semicircular path. It simply means this particular body has covered how much distance, then the distance of this particular body covered in the semicircle while it is moving in the semicircular path is equal to the circumference of this particular semicircle. And we know very well what will be the circumference of this semicircle. The circumference of the circle is 2 pi r. So for semicircle it will be 2 pi r divided by 2, then 2, so 2 cancel, then in that particular case we are left with the pi r value, and the value of pi is given over here. Pi value is 3.14, and the radius of this particular semicircular track is given over here, that is 10 meter. Then distance is equal to pi into r, that is equal to 3.14 into 10 meter, that is equal to 31.4 meter. So this is the first part that we have calculated, that is the total distance covered by this particular object or body when it is traveling in a semicircular path. Then let us come to the second part of the question. In this particular question we have to calculate the displacement also. Then what is displacement? Displacement is actually the shortest path between the initial position and the final position. So this was the initial position, and this was the initial position, and this is the final position, and the shortest distance between this particular initial and final position is this, simply this particular. Then this becomes equal to how much? This becomes is actually to the diameter of this particular semicircle. Clear? Then what is the value of diameter, or how we can calculate the diameter of a particular semicircle? Clear? It is simply equal to the double of the radius. Then if the radius is given over here, that is 10 meter, then diameter is equal to twice of radius. Then the value of r radius is here 10 meter, then it is equal to 20 meter. This is how we can calculate the displacement of a particular body. So let's move to the next slide and let us discuss one more example related to the concept of the distance and displacement. Student, in this particular example or in this particular question, what the statement is given over here, that in this particular statement a body travels 4 km towards north. Let us say that particular body is kept at the point O origin, and this particular body start moving in the north direction. So you know very well, according to the direction rule, here in the top side we are having the north, here in the bottom side we are having the south, here is the east, and here is the west. For this you can also remember the map of India. Clear? You can also remember the map of India to move a particular object in a particular direction. So according to the statement of the question, the body is traveling in the north direction, and then after covering a distance of 4 km, this particular object turns to his right. So this is actually left and this is the right. Then this particular object moves towards the right and travels again a distance of 4 km, and then it came to rest. So in this particular question or in this particular situation, we have to calculate the total distance and the total displacement. Again, according to the definition of distance, distance is simply the actual path covered by the object. So actual path covered by the object is from OA to AB, means OA plus AB. Then let us understand it here, that the total distance traveled is actually OA plus AB, and the value of OA is 4 km, and the value of OB is also 4 km. Then the total distance traveled by the object is equal to 8 km. So 8 km will be the answer. Then let us calculate the displacement, that is the total displacement covered by this particular body. Then if you are able to recall the definition of displacement, displacement is simply the shortest path between the initial position and the final position. Then this is the initial position, this is the final position, and this dotted line is actually representing the shortest path, that is a displacement. So this becomes what? This becomes a right angle triangle, and if you can use the Pythagoras theorem here, so this is what? This is actually the hypotenuse, and one of this is actually the base, and one of this is actually the perpendicular. So according to the Pythagoras theorem, p square plus b square is equal to h square, and p and b are given over here. P is actually, let us say it is OA square, and let us say b is here AB square, and this is equal to h square. H square is actually here OB square. So we can calculate the value of OB. OB कैसे निकल जाएगा आपके पास? What is the value of OA here? OA की वैल्यू बची आपके पास 4. 4 square plus AB is again 4. 4 square is equal to OB square. Then 4 square is 16. Again 4 square is 16. That is equal to OB square. And OB becomes to under root 32 meters. So this is how you can calculate the value of displacement. Also, I hope with the help of these numerical you are able to understand the concept of distance and displacement. So this is for the part number 1 of chapter number 8, and in the next video we will learn regarding the part number 2, that is here uniform and non-uniform motion. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Day in, day out, it's the same road we're walking down. Same job, same town, 'cause we've been told that's the way our world goes round. Walking on the grounds we've always known, stepping